You're listening to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, where each week we have a conversation with everyday martial arts practitioners. From the first motivation to train, martial arts enriches our lives and becomes a lifestyle. Welcome to the individual stories of those martial artists living that lifestyle. You are listening to the abbreviated version. For those of you checking this out on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Full-length versions of this podcast can be subscribed to at our Patreon page, is www.patreon.com/malmag. Or individual full-length episodes can be purchased at our Gumroad page at malmag.gumroad.com. Before we begin this week's program, I would like to remind you to check out martialartslifestylemagazine.com to see articles on the martial arts. Click on the store tab to find products for the practice of Southeast Asian martial arts, featuring Timmy B's brand sticks. Check out the courses tab, currently featuring a course on the Dos Manos method of the Filipino Martial Arts. Also check out our Places to Train page, featuring top quality martial art academies from around the world. And of course, check out our events page for seminars and events coming up around the world. To see your school listed in our Places to Train page or your event on our events calendar, contact us at malmagonline@gmail.com. This week I get on Zoom and I connect again to Texas and I talk with martial artist Jon Rister. Jon is an old-timer, I like to say affectionately. He has trained with martial art greats like Larry Hartzell and Dan Inosanto. He has written 4 books on the martial arts. We'll hear about the process of that. We also talk about the rigors of running a martial arts school, training the arts that you like, and much more. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast, and I am connecting again to Texas, which seems to be a quite popular place. Seems like Texas and New York are the places I keep ping-ponging back and forth between, that if there were a political thing, I would have those people at each other's throat. But
yeah,
this is not political stuff. This is just the martial arts and good stuff. And today I've got an old friend that I've known for several years. I think it was pre-COVID, and I met you when I was substituting for Joel Clark in Texas once. And this gentleman gave me one of the best compliments you can ever pay me, which was he saw me do something. He goes, "I could tell you're a Larry Hartzell student." And if that doesn't butter me up, nothing does. That is like the compliment you can give me that will always make me your friend. And you're also a author of, I think, at least 4 books.
Yeah, 5 books.
Yeah, it's a hell of an accomplishment. So welcome, Jon Rister, to the show.
Thank you, Timmy. It's really great to be on here with you.
Yeah.
I admire you. So
cool.
Really
well,
great.
I certainly appreciate all the conversations we've had over the years, and I know you put in a lot of hard work. I mean, you've been involved in this endeavor, I guess I'll call it hobby, a serious hobby thingy that we do for a long time.
Yeah.
Which is pretty good for such a young man.
Thank you. That's a good one.
Indeed. Well, I guess the way I generally start the show is I just kind of ask everyone how they got involved, like what got you into martial arts, how old were you, and what did you do initially?
Well, I'm going to say I got out of the military, and I got a job working, let's say construction-ish, kind of, pardon my cough there. And it was kind of rough, there was a lot of rough people. In that trade,
Well, isn't roofing. That, I mean, not to interrupt you, but I think almost in every country, construction's kind of connected to the organized crime, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
So you're going to have some rough people.
Yeah, disorganized crime, at least.
Yeah. Disorganized.
Yeah. Yeah. So I kind of felt like, being in the military, I didn't really get enough hand-to-hand stuff. And so I thought, I'm going to learn karate. And well, the big thing at that time was Taekwondo.
Okay.
So I started looking for a Taekwondo school, and I ran into a guy who was teaching this weird martial art. It looked kind of like boxing and kind of like wrestling and kind of like, it had sticks and stuff, And I was like, well, that looks interesting. So I'll give it a try. And I started training, and within a month, I knew it was something I was going to do the rest of my life. You know, and I think, you know, you want to call it JKD is what the guy was teaching.
Okay.
But he was bringing in Master Chai,
All right.
Francis Fong, Larry Hartzell, and Dan Inosanto.
Okay.
Some prominent names that I had never heard, to be honest with you. I didn't know who these people were. The one that really impressed me the most initially was Sifu Larry,
Mm-hmm.
because he, you know, I mean, I just identified with him quite quickly, and the way he
Right.
taught was more, you know, like someone shakes your hand and tries to punch you, throw them, you know, and that seemed cool. I
Yeah.
didn't really like Filipino martial arts initially, and that's kind of how I got started in it. And you know, I just never stopped after that.
Wow.
And it
That's
just
good.
lucky, really, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who does that? Who just falls into that thing? I think my first seminar was Francis Fong,
Okay.
and that was Wing Chun, you know. And back then it was mostly just punch the focus gloves until your knuckles bleed. At that time period, you know.
Right.
But he was impressive. And then Sifu Larry was like every 2 or 3 months he would bring in one of our Sifus, one of our gurus, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just was like, wow, this is really different than karate. We don't get to wear the gis and the belts and stuff, but I'll overlook that, you
Yeah.
know. And so that's basically how I started, and I'm pretty much just doing the same thing,
Yeah.
you
Well,
know.
that's pretty cool. Kind of falling on into this stuff that you're
Yeah,
still in fairly early on.
yeah, I
Because
was just lucky.
yeah, I mean, and the thing about sticking with it, I think pretty much everyone in this audience kind of understands that. I think we're all addicts to it, you know. Like, you know, we got bit by the bug, and we all have the same pneumonia, flu, whatever we want to call it.
Yeah, some people say we're broken, broken
Yeah.
people. You know?
Okay, that's fine. They want to call it. I'm fine with my brokenness, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, you know, find a passion, and I feel we're all lucky enough to have done that.
yeah, yeah. And you kind of you see that in most of the guys that have been around as long as you have, you know. You see a lot of people come and go, but you see the faces, you know, that kind of stay around, and they lose some hair, you know, and stuff.
Right.
But they just keep training. They love it, and they're always learning. And I think that's what you know, the instructors you have, they keep you fresh. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't know anything about this. I better study,
Right.
kind of thing. So
Right. Well, and then, you know, fortunately, the ones that we're spending our time with um, tend to be good examples of people who are still researching and learning themselves. So, you know, it does kind of keep you, I think, always young in your mind in that, curious,
mhm,
and always looking to even find something new in the old, I think.
indeed, absolutely,
So, do you operate a school now?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. That's where I'm at now. I just got off that other thing, and was able to get to my school. It's my refuge, you know.
Yeah. Well, we'll
And
talk all that, how the career infuses with it as well, because you know you kind of do. I think something that obviously martial art applies to directly. You're in security or law enforcement,
mhm.
and
Yeah, yeah, and this is more recent, uh,
uh,
and it's a result of COVID. And
oh,
you know, I've trained with law enforcement. Of course, we all do, right?
mm-hmm,
You train law enforcement, you train military people, you train bodyguards, that kind of stuff. And I've been lucky enough to meet and train a lot of really good people. And one of my students happens to own security company, and I've taught his officers for decades, you know.
Oh, wow.
And then he tells me, he goes, look, I know, you know, the school's kind of slow and you know, you're not allowed to do certain things. You want to work, just come and, you know, do this event with me. We're going to have this ACDC like impersonator group, and they
Oh,
just want
wow.
someone to work. So I just kind of worked the gate, you know, and I was like, you know, wait, well, this is actually not bad. I
Yeah.
mean, definitely I'm using my skills, and I wasn't fighting people. I was de-escalating people.
Right, of course. Yeah.
And so I liked it, and then I said, well, if you need me again, you know, if I'm available. And then it turned into this thing where I'm just doing it full time now. The last couple
Wow.
of years, I've been now I'm supervising 33 schools, not the schools, but the officers that work at those.
Hmm.
And so that keeps me really busy and
Wow.
growing as a martial artist like I never would have thought.
Wow. That's really pretty interesting. I mean, how like kind of a crappy situation turns out to, you know, give you a pretty good gig, you know,
Yeah.
eventually. That's pretty neat. You know, those are the stories I like to hear. And I think, you know, because that whole situation was not we all kind of suffered in that, you know, and I think it's great for people that are still trying to find their way after. And I think I'm one of those, you know, as well. And it's good to hear the positive stories of people that were able to kind of come out of it with something positive, and you know they're going good, coming back, you know, strong. um One of them was Kurt Cornwell. You know, he lost his school,
Mm-hmm.
and
Did he?
then yeah, and then was able to get in, rent a space from someone else, and then kind of come back strong. He's got a whole new revamped thing going on. So, you know, I put him on when he did that because I thought it was a great story for people to hear. And, you know, I think it's good to hear that, you know, people always say when you're kind of going through rough patches, like you're not alone, or you're not, you know, you're not the only one, you know. And I don't know how much better that makes you feel that other people are suffering too. You know, it's like I've never gained a better, you know, feeling better about myself because I know other people are miserable too. I'm like, well, that's not cool. I don't want other people to be miserable as well. But you know, I think if you do see that people are able to overcome those types of things, it gives you a little hope too, you know.
It does.
Yeah.
And you know, he's an excellent martial artist, Curtis.
Yeah.
And you know, due to no fault of your own,
Right.
you can find yourself, you know, just holding the bag, going, what
Yeah.
do I do next? You know.
Right. Yeah.
And for myself, you know, when I first started doing martial arts, I was working construction kind of jobs, and then you know, I went in. I was working at apartment complexes doing their you know, superintendent, maintenance, kind of
Main.
air
Yeah.
conditioning, heating, plumbing, that kind of stuff. Well, I had stopped doing that about 2006 and opened a school full time. And so by 2020 or 2019, whatever that was, I had kind of aged out of being able to go back to that. And so being able to land in this role
Yeah. Yeah.
at my age, I can still do it, and I can still
Oh,
be good at it.
yeah. I mean, that was a thing to think about, you know, when we were younger, like in our 20s and 30s. You know, you've heard of ageism, but you don't really understand it. I mean, I understand what it was, but I didn't understand what it was until now. And you go, wow, you know, can I imagine? I'm 55, turned 55 in October.
Okay.
I couldn't imagine trying to turn around and walk out and go, okay, what if I had to go back in the workforce at this point?
Mm.
You know, how would I even go about it? And I'm listening to how people apply for jobs going, whoa, that's so way different than
Yeah.
filling a resume and taking it in, or sending it, even like emails. I was in the day of email where you'd email something. You know, I was in TV for a long time. So editing TV would be, yeah, you'd email a resume, you'd email a link maybe to your reel for them to see. But yeah, you don't do that now. It's like all done on these online forms, and you're with 10,000 other people doing it. It just sounds like, wow. I'm like, this is the worst kind of cattle call, I would think. You're setting stuff up for rejection at this point. And certainly no one wants to hire people that are over 40, because we kind of understand that we're not going to put up with their shit, and they don't want to put up with our shit.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Man,
that's what
true.
kind of boils down to. You can't fool an older person into some of the nonsense that you could with a teenager or a 20 something.
Yeah, you can't. You just can't do that to them,
Yeah.
And, at the same time, we don't really identify with the things they immediately identify with.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And so it's harder to, are you going to go and interview with the guy who's 28?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're going to work for his company,
Right. Yeah, exactly.
It's awkward, yeah.
Yeah. And on the other end of it, I mean, I've kind of gotten this father role, which is pretty interesting. In the last few years of my life, there was two younger people that came to the academy, a brother and sister, and they didn't have an active dad in their life, so they sort of adopted me into the role. And so, we've got a really tight relationship that's like that, and very proud of them. They're both they're 20 and 19 respectively in age now, both in college. And it's funny because the girl, she's like, I would like to do some part-time work. And I'm thinking, oh, well, yeah, I did that, when I was in school. Pretty easy. You just go down, you work. She goes, no, no, no. She goes, you don't understand. They don't. She goes, I understand how you worked, where it was 3 or 4 hours, several days a week or something. She goes, they don't want that now. To them, part-time is 3 8-hour days. She goes, I don't have 8 hours. I can't work 8 hours in a day because of school schedule. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So it's like even the part-time work is not geared for someone who would say be in college at the same time or in school at the same time. So it's a strange world out there. I see over close to the academy, there's a place where they have boba tea and coffee and stuff. They're all high school students from Venice High, which is close by, working in there, and it's fun to actually chit chat with them and kind of see what the life of a high school teenager is like these days compared to mine. And that place seems to be more like what it was, I think, when you and I were younger, where it's a few hours a day, a couple days a week kind of thing. But apparently that's just not a common thing, and I'm thinking, wow. And then they complain we can't get anybody to work. Like, well, yeah, it's also somewhat somewhat what we say, you're setting up impossible situations for people to work.
Yeah.
Are really difficult.
Yeah. That sounds more like the companies want to have an employee but not pay them like a full-time employee. Not to the benefit of the employee, but
right.
Yeah. That's unfortunate.
Yeah. But let's talk about, so there's one thing about being someone who practices martial arts. Then there's that step into saying, I want to teach, and then I want to actually have a school. So what pushed you that direction? That's a heck of a two incredible steps, realistically.
Well, okay. First, when I started, meeting and training with these wonderful people, I just admired them so much, and what they could do to affect me. I would think I was 19, maybe 20, and how they affected me in a positive way. I looked up to that and thought that, if you're going to do something, well, that's a good thing to do. So then I knew I kind of wanted to teach, and I helped my instructor teach classes at his place for about 6 months. And then, I kind of got a kick in the pants to decide to teach, because he quit teaching and just kind of left. And so
there was a void.
Yeah, I was there, and I had a buddy of mine who I don't know if he still teaches or not, but he you probably have met him. We were training partners, and he said, why don't we just start our own school? So we just kind of rented a space in a back then they had racquetball clubs,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So we rented a space in a racquetball club, and we started teaching classes there. And I was really too young to be teaching, at that time. But there wasn't really an alternative in the city. So
Right.
you're talking about Dallas, Texas, a huge a city.
Yeah, yeah.
But all there was Taekwondo and judo and karate, and I'd already been bitten by the JKD bug,
Right.
and I didn't see myself, going to study putting a gi on and doing that. Just didn't appeal to me anymore. Originally, that's what I was looking for, and then I kind of found this martial art that had a lot of freedom.
Yeah, yeah.
So I kind of had to start teaching, or go and do that.
Right. Yeah, that's understandable.
And then as it progressed, and my partner and my friend and I started getting, just getting better through just training all the time. And then I knew it was something that I wanted to do that as a profession instead of a vocation.
Right.
That took me 17 years to get to that. And it didn't take very long of COVID to get me out of it.
Right. At least for now.
Yeah, at least for now. So
right. I mean, it'll come back.
Yeah, we're trying, and I have a good group of students, that help me, because in this role I'm in, I can get called away to go and do things, and they'll teach the class for me, So and I have students that have been with me. The longest one is since 1994.
Oh wow, that's. I mean, that seems like just yesterday, but we're talking 30 years.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
And this concludes the abbreviated version of the podcast. Please consider supporting the program by going to www.patreon.com/MALMAG and subscribing to the show. You can also purchase this individual episode or any individual episode at our Gumroad page. That's malmag.gumroad.com. Thank you for listening to this episode with Jon Rister. Coming up next week, we connect with Clark University's Ryan Clark. Our Malmag online store at martialartslifestylemagazine.com has a full selection of Timmy B's brand sticks for FMA and Krabi Krabong. Timmy B's brand now selling in Japan as well. Beautiful Timmy B's brand shirts and Dos Manos shirts are available. We also have sarongs, malongs, and wooden training knives. An online course in the Dos Manos method for FMA is available under the Courses tab. More courses coming soon. Check out the Places to Train tab to find schools near you, and click on the events calendar page to see what seminars and events are happening all around the world. And of course, visit our main page for articles on the martial arts. Music by Arthur J. Martial Arts Lifestyle Magazine and the Martial Arts Lifestyle Podcast are trademarked and copyrighted by TNT LLC.